Hey, all right. T's Weird Week Live. Hey, everyone. I'm T. Krulos.
And I'm Heidi Erickson.
Heidi, how's it going?
Oh, it's awesome. It's really great here in the old city of Milwaukee. How are you doing, T?
All right. All right.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
So I interviewed some guests for the podcast this week. They're from Dallas, and they have a podcast called Sinisterhood, and they're traveling around. I mean, this is kind of what we want to do. They're traveling around talking about local lore.
Awesome.
And they're coming to Milwaukee on Friday so they can talk about the Pfister Hotel.
Okay.
If people didn't know, the Pfister Hotel is probably one of the most famous Milwaukee ghost stories. And that's because many people have had supernatural experiences there, including many Major League Baseball players. So Heidi, do you have any theories as to why baseball players in particular are susceptible to seeing ghosts at the Pfister Hotel?
You know, that's a really good question. I mean, why are baseball players more likely to become ghosts that wander out of cornfields? Clearly, they're supernaturally inclined. That's got to have something to do with it. I feel like there's so much superstition surrounding baseball. Like the idea of like never changing your socks, and like there's all kinds of things you're not supposed to do because it'll ruin your luck. I don't know. I don't play a lot of baseball. If you guys play baseball and you know all about the weird superstitions that baseball players have surrounding the sport, please let all of us know, because I would love to talk about it. But I think that sports players in particular and baseball players in particular tend to be people who are maybe more open to that experience. You know what I mean? Wasn't there one baseball player that was there who claimed to see like a half of a person floating down a hallway in the Pfister? Like a whole half of a person.
Yes.
Just floating.
That was a recent one. It was 2018. I know this, by the way, if people are curious. I do tours for American Ghost Walks, and we talk about the Pfister on the tour. So I have told these stories hundreds and hundreds of times. But I'll tell it again. 2018, Carlos Martinez and Marcell Ozuna, both playing with the Cardinals, did say that they saw a human torso that appeared in the air and was just kind of floating there in their room, which scared them, obviously. So they ran like hell down the hallway to another teammate's room. And the three of them were kind of, sitting back to back, wide awake, because they were on the lookout for this ghost that was going to appear again. So
see, now I feel bad for those guys, but on the other hand, do you not automatically picture them in like their Red Sox jammies with blankets up under their chins, like shaking and be like, I don't believe in no spooks. I don't believe in no spooks. Wait, was it just a torso? Did it not have a head either? It was just a torso?
They said it was a human torso that appeared in the air.
Just a torso.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Sounds like a ghost trying to form but couldn't quite get all the way there.
Some Dr. Manhattan shit. That's crazy. But didn't the Pfister, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I expect that most hotels at some point or another have burnt to the ground, because the rules about like how to make it so that things don't burn to the ground and trap everyone inside and burn them to a crisp used to be pretty lax. Like they weren't what you'd call super like strict. There was a lot of like wiggle room in that, and hence many hotels burnt to the ground. Didn't the Pfister? Am I wrong about that?
I'm not aware of any major fires inside the Pfister, but there was another hotel in downtown Milwaukee that was called the Newhall House, and this hotel was very famous for its fires. In fact, it had the nickname the Tinder Box. It's not a great nickname for your hotel, because in the 30-some years they were open, they had 30 major fires. So almost every year they had a pretty big fire. And that, of course, was what ended the hotel. They had a tragic fire. It killed 71 people.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was bad news.
Maybe there was just so many torsos over at that hotel that they had to like send
walk down the street. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
far from the Pfister.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
far from where
yeah.
the Pfister
They
is.
were like, we're full up on torsos, you guys. You're gonna have to take your body parts and hoof it on down to the Pfister. I
Yeah.
hear that the Red Sox are there, and you should check that shit out. Yeah, but a lot of people, like not just baseball players, a lot of like
Yeah.
celebrity people, and they weren't shy about it either, which I think is really interesting. It wasn't like a thing where they're like, oh, I'm not saying it was, but I'm not saying it wasn't. They were like, there was a torso. No, I know what I saw. I love that for them.
Yeah, I was very charmed. I think this was last year. I'm not sure. The years kind of blend together.
Right.
But Megan the Stallion gave a performance
What?
at Summerfest. She didn't see a ghost, but someone, she's like, I'm staying at the Pfister, and someone was like, hey, did you know your hotel is really, really haunted? And then, so what she did that evening to entertain herself was she walked around the hallways with her camera phone, hoping to get a ghost,
I love
And
that.
she was really kind of psyching herself out a lot, though, because she was like peeking around the corner. I was like, is that a ghost? Is that a ghost? And was this
Yeah,
a shadow
yeah.
or something? So she was having fun and scaring herself quite a bit at the Pfister.
Yeah.
Which is great. I'd love to go ghost hunting with Megan the Stallion. That would be
Oh,
fun.
absolutely. I actually read an interview with her just recently. There was a journalist that actually hung out with her for about 3 months while she was putting out her last album. And she actually seems like a very compelling person. I would totally hang out with Megan Thee Stallion. Not that Megan Thee Stallion is like, oh my God, Heidi wants to hang out with me. My day is made. I have arrived. I'm just saying that if you're in town and you want to go ghost hunting Megan Thee Stallion, we can absolutely do that. We have the hookup for all the weirdest places. I absolutely promise you. I think that here's a question for you, T. So hotels in general are kind of creepy and weird. Like so many people come and go in and out of hotels. It's what is known as a liminal space, right? It's a space between other spaces. And I feel like places like that are almost like they kind of suck that weird energy in. Airports, bus stations, hotels. Like there's something about them that's just a little bit otherworldly because they're these transient spaces. But I find mostly hotels are not that disturbing to me because they're filled with other people. Like in a pinch, if you see a floating torso, you can always run up the hallway to your friend's room and be like, hey guys, do you have any pizza? You want to split a skin flick? There's a torso in my room. What really creeps me out is like the back rooms places and places like that. Like, the like industrial hallway spaces and like the sub basements that nobody goes in but like once a year to get the Christmas decorations. I think if I was a ghost and I was kicking it in the Pfister, outside of scaring the bejesus out of professional sports type people, I would probably be hanging out in like the quiet places where it's nothing but shadows and spiders and shit, right? You want to stick with like an aesthetic or whatever. I wonder if we could get into those places and go look for some ghosties.
Oh, in the Pfister? You mean like the probably service hallways and stuff? They must have them. It's pretty
Yeah.
big. It's a pretty big building, actually.
Yeah, it's a huge building. I'm
It's
sure
so
they
like the
do.
whole. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that if I was talking to a friend of mine who worked in plants, she's the kind of person who goes around and waters like all the plants you see in big buildings and stuff. Like she takes care of them. That's what she does. A lot of hotels and big buildings like that, where they keep their decorations for Christmas. And if you've never seen the Christmas decorations at the Pfister, you guys, it's pretty amazing. Like they go balls to the wall. They are all about Christmas. They are balls deep in Christmas at the Pfister. A lot of those places rent out big giant storage warehouses to keep all of their Christmas decorations in. And I'm sure the Pfister does now too. But at one point in time, they kept all their decorations on site, which means there had to have been space in there somewhere big enough to keep a 40-foot Christmas tree and about 100 bazillion wreaths and all this other kind of stuff. And it's got to be somewhere in that. But if nothing else, I'm sure it's an absolutely fantastic place for a seance. Just saying. There's options.
Here's another thing about the Pfister, and I actually did. Shane is pointing this out. Shane says it's like Scooby-Doo with the Harlem Globetrotters. So the word Scooby-Doo, I actually use that a lot when I talk to people about the Pfister, because if you go into the old part of the building and, you can go into the lobby and walk around the hallways, right? Even if you're not a guest.
Yeah.
And the art collection of Charles Pfister is kind of spread out in the old part of the building. And he has all these paintings he collected from Spanish, Italian, French painters, and they're, usually of people. So especially if you're not like used to seeing that type of art on a regular basis, if you're walking through the hallway and the hallways are kind of dim, you walk by some of these paintings and you definitely get that like Scooby-Doo sense that the eyes are looking at you as you walk by, So
Well,
I think a lot of people, they kind of set themselves up because they're looking around and they're expecting to have a haunted experience because it looks like a haunted
right.
house in a cartoon or something.
Right, absolutely. And if those paintings have been hanging there for long enough,
Yeah.
who's to say that's not exactly what's going on? I would, if I was the creepy caretaker and in a hotel and there'd been a painting there for 100 years, there's
Yeah.
no way I wouldn't
Yeah.
figure out how to Scooby Doo that thing. For sure I would. I don't know. I feel like places like that, though, like hotels, like historical places fascinate me and I think they're beautiful. But I also feel like there's so many people in them that the ghosts that are there probably are not that. I mean, they got fucking Megan Thee Stallion to mess with. They got what? The entire Harlem Globetrotter. They don't care that I'm there. They don't care about that stuff at all. I'm more interested in like creepy old bookstores that used to be funeral homes, like
Yeah.
bizarre stuff like that. Or like the fact that this freaks me out all the time. There are little tiny pocket cemeteries all over the city of Milwaukee. Did you know that? Little tiny baby cemeteries that people just don't even know are even there because the neighborhoods used to be super divided along ethnic lines. And if you were Italian, you didn't get buried in the Polish neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like that just didn't happen. So there were all these little tiny cemeteries that would just be off of what eventually became like just corner stores and stuff. And a lot of those cemeteries, nobody knows that they're there anymore. And they haven't known that they're there for ages and ages and ages, which is why occasionally people will still dig up like old bones and boxes and headstones and shit when they're doing development and things, or find them in the pile of refuse that was what they dug out for the basement for this building 50, 70 years ago. So there are a lot of buildings in the city of Milwaukee and streets and other things that are 112% just straight up poltergeist style built on top of a fucking graveyard. For sure there are. And I just want to like go to those places where it's like a shoe store, but sometimes like there's screams and maybe the walls are dripping with blood and nobody knows why, because that shoe store's only been there for 20 years and nobody's ever died there. And it's like, well, it's because you buried, like there's people under the ground there. Hey.
Yeah, that is, I don't usually lead. We have a Brady Street tour, American Ghost Walks, the company I work for. There's a Brady Street tour. It's good. And one of the things that you learn on that tour is that that's exactly what happened right on Brady Street. There used to be a graveyard. Doesn't look like they moved all of the bodies because people have been renovating their basements, and all of a sudden they pull out an old femur bone or leg bone or something out of the ground because they didn't move all the bodies that were buried at that cemetery.
Yeah. And it's not like they were even being scandalous about it. Back in the day, they didn't keep, super tight records on where they was dumping dead folks. They just kind of put them in whatever hole in the ground was available, especially if like when the influenza came through and stuff and people was just dropping like flies, they just had to get those fuckers in the ground. There was no time to like make sure they were putting them to a spreadsheet or whatever. Definitely, if you live in the city of Milwaukee, your whole neighborhood could have been built right on top of a cemetery and you would never even know it at all until like that thing happens where your braces try and eat you when you brush your teeth at night. Remember that scene?
Oh, yeah.
God, that fucked me up. I was so scared of orthodontia for so long. It's terrible. But that's what you get when you build your house on a graveyard, I guess.
Another situation like that I know of is Lincoln Park in Chicago. I believe it was because of the Great Chicago Fire, but
oh sure,
they were moving. They needed to move the gravestones or the graves, but they just moved the headstones and they left the bodies in Lincoln Park, which is why Lincoln Park, despite looking like this very happy, public space, is supposed to be quite haunted.
Yeah,
well.
they didn't even try there though at Lincoln Park. They weren't they didn't even make the attempt. They just picked the headstones up and moved them. We're like, meh.
You're like, well, we gotta do this like last week. Just move the headstones. Come on.
Just be careful when you put those tomatoes in, Marge. Like, just watch out for that. Oh, that's so evil. I love it. Yeah, that's cool. So these cats are coming to town, right? They're gonna go check out the Fister. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. Are they gonna check anything else out, or are they just coming for the Fister?
I mean, I don't think they're gonna have a lot of time in town. They're doing Chicago the night before, and then they're gonna come up here, do their podcast, and then I think they're carrying on to their next stop. But they're gonna check out the Fister. They asked me for some restaurant recommendations, and I gave the creepiest ones I could think of, And
so George Webb,
George Webb at 4 a.m. Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. I love it. Okay, cool.
They told me about a really fun Dallas story, because that's what I want to know. I want to hear about other places. I know all this Milwaukee shit. In Dallas, they have these sort of squid-headed Cthulhu-like statues that keep appearing randomly.
Like statues,
Yeah.
or is it like those like monoliths that were really just spray painted cardboard?
They look like they're statues, but they might not be, to be fair. I've only seen a picture. And they have these bizarre inscriptions on them that talk about like how the founders of Dallas were these squid people, and the city will take the statue down, but then like a month later another one will appear somewhere.
Wow.
No one knows who's doing it.
I don't know what would be creepier. If it was like a cast bronze or carved stone statue and a new one kept appearing monthly, or if it was literally just some JCPenney's mannequin with like a sponge mop glued to the front of it. The messages are all chiseled in with like a box cutter. Like, you guys are not going to believe this, but Dallas was founded by the fish people. Fucking sweet. Aw, dude, I want a mysterious floating statue in Milwaukee. What if it was just the bronze Fonz, except he just kept on getting bigger every time he reappeared?
That statue is pretty creepy, I have to say, by the way.
It is creepy.
It looks kind of like a werewolf to me.
It does. And also he's 3/4 size, which I think is so fucking funny.
Is it, or is he really that small? I don't know.
No, there's no way. There's no way the Fonz is like 6 inches shorter than me. That doesn't make any sense. Because you go to see the bronze Fonz, and it's like, it feels like this, it's this seminal thing that you do in Milwaukee is you go see the bronze Fonz down on the Riverwalk, and then you get there, and this guy, this bronze Fonz, looks like he should be handing you mints in a men's restroom. He's like 4 or 5 or whatever, and it's super disappointing. And they went to some great expense to like make him, like, remember they gave him an upgrade or whatever a couple of years ago, and I was like, cool, maybe they'll give the guy some fucking lifts or something like that, put a little mousse in his hair, get a little height going on. Absolutely not. He's the same size, just a little shinier. Sad. And no ominous messages, which is just a missed opportunity if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what other stories we got? Shane, who's giving us some messages here, he also posted this in the Tease Weird Week Facebook group, which you should join if you haven't already, because that's where we get a lot of our stories from.
It's a fun time.
I read the headline of this one, so you're gonna have to fill us in on the rest. The headline says, "Burger that tastes like human flesh despite being vegan wins top award." What award?
Wow. Okay, first of all, I'd like to point out that headline brought to us by the folks at the Mirror, who never let me down.
Mirror. Okay, great.
Never let me down. It just has a lot of layers to it. First, you got the burger that tastes like human flesh. The first questions you're going to ask yourself is, how do they know? How did they test that? What was their R&D like? What does that even mean? Then the next part is, despite being vegan, which, amazing, fantastic. Love that for you. I love that people will give like vegans a hard time and be like, if you're going to eat something that tastes like meat, why don't you just eat meat? And that's really not the point, obviously. I love the idea that the vegans are eating human flesh. I think this is so great. I think it's so in line with so many of my favorite conspiracy theories. I'm so with it. I feel like Jane Fonda would absolutely eat a motherfucker, no doubt about it. And it did, and it won a top award. So does that mean the vegan burger is super good, or that we are all missing out on the culinary wonder that is cannibalism? Like, there's a lot of questions that you're going to start to feel when you start reading this. So first of all, this vegan burger was created by a Swedish food company called Oomph.
Nice. Nice. Very Swedish.
I swear this one is called. It's OUMPH exclamation point. Oomph. It said it worked to get the perfect texture of flesh for their cannibalistic creation, but they were quick to note that no humans were harmed in the making of this burger. I think that's not true. There had to be at least one marketing person that lost their mind, just absolutely went insane. They also say, and this is my favorite part, the burger itself is made from soyas. It's made from like soybean processing, like, like tofu, mushrooms, and wheat protein, as well as plant-based fats, and a mysterious spice mix.
Mysterious.
It's mysterious, you guys. I think it's Worcestershire sauce and like a bus driver. So it's a special
glands, yeah.
Right. Adrenochromes, they're delicious. Even vegans like them. They said that why is the big question. The big question is why. Maybe that's not the big question in this article. It's one of the top 4 questions. One of the top 4 questions is, why did you do that? What they said is they wanted to prove that it is possible to produce plant-based products that taste like any meat and are exciting to try.
Odd that they chose to go for that one first,
I mean, you have to give it to them. That's a good hook. I for sure, if they were like, hey, we made this burger, it's made out of mushrooms and tofu, but it tastes just like a bus driver, I'd be like, fucking lay it on me, bro. Put a slice of cheddar cheese on that shit. Give it to me right now. Although they could have done anything though. If their point was to be like, we want to prove that we can make vegan meat taste like anything, they could have picked Tyrannosaurus Rex. They could have, there was that one company that was trying to make meat, like a vegan meat that they were trying to make it taste only like extinct or endangered animals, which I thought was clever. I was like, that's really clever.
Remember they had like tiger, they had a suggested menu and it was tiger nuggets and like elephant and
right.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, there's that element of forbidden fruit to that as well, but not as much as eating a people burger. And that's true. That's really, really true. Although, isn't there that risk that it's really, really good and that there's going to be at least 4 people who are like, wow, if fake human meat tastes this good, just imagine how good a real life florist would taste. You know what I mean? Okay. I've not seen the ad campaign. Apparently it's amazing. They're calling it super creepy and showed a crazed looking bloodstained butcher clutching the oozing plant-based sandwich. This is pornography. This is weirdo pornography. Absolutely love it. The company did not explain what they used as a guideline for the taste and texture of human flesh. I don't know. Maybe they gave it to somebody and they're like, does this taste like a long pig? What do you guys think about that? The stunt was awarded a Silver Brand Experience and Activation Lion at Cannes Lions Food Festival last week. I have no idea what Cannes Lions Food Festival is. I want to believe it's associated with the very famous film and theater award of the same name.
Yeah, Cannes Film Festival, yeah.
The global brand leader at Oomph, his name is Henrik Kerman, said he's incredibly proud of this award and the great teamwork behind it, and that our mission is to change how people eat. Yep. And it is our duty to use creativity as a tool to make this change happen. So, yeah.
And this is a Swedish company, you're saying?
Is a Swedish company.
Do you remember that last week we had a news item about Sweden also has those sexy talking garbage cans?
Yeah.
We have this banner. It's called Wisconsin, Scotland, or Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But Sweden's moving up the ranks real quick here.
Yeah, you know what? There are flavors, though. Like when you hear a weird story from Florida, like we're pretty dead on because we play a game where we like to guess where these stories are coming from. You get a taste. You get a taste for it. Not unlike you might get a taste for human flesh. You hear that story and you're like, oh, that totally happened in Florida. That definitely happened in Scotland. There's a flavor of like techno European weirdness from the Sweden stories. That's just like, you know what it's like, T? It's like when you're lost in an IKEA, right? Sunday afternoon, and like you don't know what's going on. You've been there for 4.5 hours, or maybe 4 months, or maybe 10 minutes. You don't know. It's hard to say. All of the umlauts are blending together. There's the faint smell of disinfectant and Swedish meatballs floating through the air. And like that moment of like disoriented, like blissed out panic, all of those stories have that flavor to it. Like, do you remember that one guy that got arrested? This was a couple weeks ago. He got arrested because he took all of the arrows in an IKEA and turned them around.
Turned them around so people. Oh man!
So you would get lost in IKEA on purpose, and then he left. He didn't even. That man is an agent of pure chaos. He didn't even sit down on a with like a Lutka fish juice and watch it happen. He just left. I'm saying there's a flavor to these things. I'm trying to see if there's anything else we really need to know about these burgers. No, he said that developing a plant-based burger that tastes of human meat was exciting and a little bit scary. And then for this campaign to win in Kansas, incredibly exciting. We developed this burger in no time as soon as we knew what taste and texture we were after. So apparently one of them had lightning strike their brain in the middle of the night, and they jumped up out of what I assume is a giant vulva-shaped velvet mattress, and they ran to their ridiculous Garfield phone, and they were like, Henrik, das ist gut, I know it. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. That's what happened in Sweden this week.
Right. Okay, so this is going to tie into it a little bit. Just bear with me. Just bear with me on this one.
I'm excited.
Amy is the name of the person who posted this in the T's Weird Week group, and I loved it. And not a lot of people saw that she posted it. The group's really weird. Sometimes stuff will get a lot of attention, and sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, I don't know why this story cracks me up so much, but it really does. And it's about the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. So I love Freedom of Information Acts. I think they're very interesting. I filed a couple of them myself. It's very exciting when you get the results back, because you're like, whoa, spy stuff, and certainly through Freedom of Information Act requests, we found a lot of unsavory things about the CIA.
Sure.
MK Ultra was a program where they drugged people to try to brainwash them. They tried to kill Fidel Castro, I think over 800 times,
including once with an exploding cigar, which I love.
Exploding cigar, exploding conch shell that they put out because he loves to scuba dive. So there's so many stories about their shady business around the world, fucking up people's lives, fucking entire countries up.
Yeah.
So that's why this is just a little bit hilarious, because someone from a website called Muckrock, and Muckrock is one of a couple sites that specializes in Freedom of Information Act requests. Another really great one is called the Black Vault, and that one, the guy has like over 1 million pages on his site that are related to UFOs and other strange stuff. It's really pretty cool. That's like all he does is file request after request. But someone decided to file a request for CIA cafeteria complaints. And there is quite a lot of cafeteria complaints, and it seems that the cafeteria is maybe one of the CIA's worst enemies
No.
on Earth, judging by the number of complaints. So, for example, here's an actual, and it's funny because they're redacted. So the names of people are blacked out, and certain other random information I have no idea what it could be is blacked out. But here's an actual complaint from someone in the CIA. Subject: food service Dunkin' Donuts sub without notice. Feedback: this morning Dunkin' Donuts substituted their awesome hash browns for those awful ones at Burger King without even notifying any of the customers.
Bastards.
I believe the cost of Dunkin' Donuts hash browns are more than those at Burger King, yet every customer who ordered hash browns from Dunkin' Donuts today was charged the Dunkin' price and served the Burger King hash browns. It was a huge disappointment upon opening the bag and seeing the hash browns substituted for those god-awful things from Burger King. It is typical business practice in the food industry to make your customers aware of any substitutions. The customer should be told before ordering and paying. The price should also reflect the poor quality product. I am sure I will not be the only one complaining about the Dunkin' Donuts hash browns today. Not to be dramatic.
CIA.
Dunkin' Donut hash browns are the crowning glory of a Dunkin' Donuts breakfast. Can someone please look into this? I nor anyone else should have to overpay for lesser quality substitution.
Okay.
Nor should they be surprised if this occurred in the first place once they open the bag. So
Okay.
an official form, by the way, is
so when
redacted.
you said CIA cafeteria complaints, I thought you meant the cafeteria at the CIA.
It is.
What?
They have like their own like food court.
So they have their own Dunkin' Donuts. The CIA has their own Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah. So actually what it is there's a company called Sodexo, and they run cafeterias, and they are licensed to have little stands like Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, stuff like that.
Sure.
Here's another shorter complaint, but I love this one. Feedback: last week and then again this week, I have talked to numerous cafe employees to inform them that the Pepsi coming out of the regular Pepsi spout is Diet Pepsi. They have the wrong Pepsi tank hooked up to the wrong Pepsi spout, yet no one has fixed this problem. Why has this problem not been fixed? Thanks.
Wow. Okay, I guess there's one of two ways of looking at this. Either the people who work at the CIA are dealing with, pretty sensitive, pretty intense. What are they? They're making exploding cigars. They're shooting at alien bug things. They're overthrowing legitimately elected governments in South American countries. All kinds of things are going on. It's a high pressure occupation. It's not like these people are the lifeguards at the local pool. And maybe with all of that being said, getting served fucking Diet Pepsi when what you want is a real Pepsi, that's just a bridge too far. Like, the line must be drawn somewhere, God damn it. And in that way, I can see how they would get worked up about that. On the other hand, you're talking about people who stage coups and stuff, and MK Ultra, and is that really you can't get Pepsi from your cafeteria? Honestly, you can probably infiltrate a cult. You can probably sneak into the Kremlin. You can't figure out how to get a regular Pepsi on the fly. Pick up the phone, bitch. That's what DoorDash is for. Relax.
So many complaints. Not enough almonds, stale bread.
Not enough almonds.
Yeah. There was one about, I had never heard this. This is apparently a thing. Have you ever heard of a jazz salad?
A
jazz with a jazz salad.
Isn't that what we used to smoke behind the bleachers in middle school? Was the old jazz salad? That's what I thought.
It's apparently
No?
what some parts of the country call like a fruit salad. And there's a complaint where there wasn't grapes in the jazz salad like a jazz salad should have, and that the employee said, "Well, you can just use those," and pointed towards some baby tomatoes. And this person was like, "What
How
are you
dare you?
talking about? Those are not grapes. Those are baby tomatoes."
How dare you insult the integrity of my jazz salad? Yeah, I too would have been complained about by the CIA because I would not have known what to tell that person to put in their jazz salad at all. At all. If you had told me there was human meat in that jazz salad, I'd have been like, oomph.
Okay, listen to this one. This one's a legit complaint. I would complain too. This complaint says, "I returned a piece of chicken because there were feathers on the chicken. I told the person who provided the chicken that there were feathers on the chicken, and she said, 'Doesn't all chicken have feathers on it?'" I
Touche.
I replied, "Only live chickens should have feathers. I am writing because I don't know if she was joking, but chickens should be properly cleaned, and there should not, in caps, be feathers left on chicken after cleaned and cooked. I wanted to bring this to your attention just in case she believed otherwise."
I'm guaranteeing. Okay. Apparently the CIA is full of Karens. So that's a real thing. And my guess is Karens that I guess could probably kill you on the spot and get away with it. So that's great. My guess is that this poor cafeteria worker was just like, all chickens have feathers, bitch, move along.
They're done with the CIA. They're done dealing with them.
I'm so proud of her. She looked this CIA agent in the face. It's like, yeah, it's a chicken. They all have feathers. Oh, I'm in love with her. We're going to get married. That's so wonderful. She's not wrong. I just checked. I Googled it. All chickens do have feathers.
I think it's so funny that there is such a huge document. This one is the first Freedom of Information that they filed, and it was 155 pages long, full of complaints.
Just to the cafeteria? Just cafeteria complaints?
Yeah.
Man.
And they're all written complaints. They sat down and wrote these memos to a superior of some sort, which is what's so crazy. I guess that fits their personality, is that they document everything, right? Into a memo or something. But if that would happen to me, I'd be like, "Hey, dude, just so you know, like, there's some feathers on my chicken or something." And I would let it go. I wouldn't be like, "You know what? I'm going to sit down and write a report about this."
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. The feathers on the chicken, I might actually call my boss about that and be like, "Dude, this bird had a beak and that ain't right." I was grossed out. I did not finish my chicken sandwich. The jazz salad thing, not enough almonds. I don't know. Like I said, these people are stressed out, but you might be right. CIA agents might just be, by their nature, anal retentive people, because they have to have a shocking eye for detail. They have to be the kind of people who will document everything. And I'm guessing they're the kind of people who want things just so, ooh, you know who else is just like that? Serial killers.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. I bet you they're drawn from the same shallow pool there for sure. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's all coming together. I get it. But yeah, no feathers. She's right. Like, I don't know. I feel like that person probably wasn't a big fan of the CIA agents that came through her line. Like, you have to work pretty hard. Like, how many people can work for the CIA that you're cranking out so many chickens that you don't notice it still has feathers on it? Like, that was a deliberate fuck you, I think, probably. I wonder who got the face. Because if they left the feathers on, there was a beak in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, here's another story. It kind of goes with our theme, I guess. But in December, there was a rain of fish that seemed to come from the sky in Texarkana. Texarkana, right there in Texas, near the Arkansas border. After some review of evidence, they determined that this was probably a flock of birds flying over that vomited the fish onto the ground below them. So it looked like it was raining fish, but really it was a bird vomit.
But
And
all the birds puked all at the same time.
well, it was a very large number of them. So some of them did, because that seems to be consistent with their behavior. Cormorants is the name of the bird. And they look kind of like a pelican.
Sure. Those are pretty gross birds. I can see that.
So they reviewed video, and they think that's what happened here. The fish were identified as gizzard shad is the name of the fish.
That's not a real fish, bro. Like fish and little birds all have the stupidest names. It's just like the sunny-breasted MILF, and then like you've got like there's that fish called the alewife. Like, have you ever seen an alewife?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which is logistically a stupid name, alewife. I don't even know where that came from. There's a whole lot of fish name things that have to do, I think, with mostly things sailors did at sea that they didn't want anybody else to know about. Why would you call a fish an alewife, except that they have giant, big mouths?
There used to be a comedy group in Milwaukee called the Dead Alewives, because there used to be a problem on the beaches where masses of alewives would die, and then they would wash ashore, and it would stink really bad. But it was an old Milwaukee comedy group. It had Dan Harmon, who went on to do the show Community, and some other guys who kind of became part of the entertainment biz in LA, but they started
in LA.
Milwaukee. Yeah,
in LA. Dan Harmon did a lot of shit. He's
Rick and Morty. Yeah.
Yeah, he did all the things. Good for him.
Yeah,
good for him. I didn't know that guy was from Milwaukee. That's cool. That's cool.
And his friend Rob Schraub also has collaborated with him on Rick and Morty and some other projects he's done too. And
he used to be one of the Dead Alewives.
Yeah.
Aw, I love that for him. I super did. But these weren't alewives. These were gizzard shad.
Okay. And people in Texas probably thought this was a miracle, right? That it's raining fish.
Gizzard shad.
But in reality, they're just being vomited on.
No, it was just a drizzle of gizzard chads. It's a gizzard drizzle. I love this story. That's great for them. I love that. So a suspiciously large group of pretty gross birds flew over and all decided to lose their lunch simultaneously on this town of Texarkana. Hey, I feel like weird things have happened before in Texarkana. I feel like that's a name I've heard before in association with other weird things that have also happened there. Is that true? Do you know?
It could be. We should look into it. I just know it from like a Creedence Clearwater Revival song. That's like the only thing I know about it.
I think something weird happened there. I'm sure a lot of weird things happen on the Arkansas border, but definitely I'm familiar with the name Texarkana. I'm going to look into it because maybe it wasn't the gizzard chads at all. There's some other kind of crazy shit.
Shane says sometimes the normal explanations are stranger than the Fortean ones.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
They had speculated a couple different things about this story. They thought that sometimes like fish will get sucked up into like a storm.
Yeah.
And there was a storm around the same time that this happened. So people had assumed that the fish had been pulled up into the atmosphere by the storm.
Sure.
But I guess upon reviewing the video, they determined that it must have come from these birds instead.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess that's entirely possible because Shane is right. There's no such thing as a mundane world. You look closely enough at anything, and eventually you will find how fucked up it is under the surface. And sometimes dramatically strange things happen because we know very little about the world. And so when these things happen, we're like, whoa, that's weird. When in fact, that's just some weird shit that happens, and we just don't see it very often because we're not everywhere. That's entirely true. However, I find most natural events have a natural explanation in that they fit into the sense of nature. It seems contradictory to survival of an animal that they should be flying all together and have any reason whatsoever while they would all throw their fish up all at the same time. I could see one of them doing it or even a handful of them doing it for whatever reason that gross birds have to do things like that. But if they all threw up all at the same time, it seems like there would be a reason because that's counter to their survival. So what I want to know is, was there like a bizarre microwave that happened? A shift in the magnetic field over Texarkana? Did someone play the blue note? I just want to know why that occurred. To just say, oh, the birds just all puked at the same time seems like an oversimplification. I feel like I'm missing part of that story. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I'm not sure what caused them to puke, or how many of them did. It doesn't say exactly. Okay, last story I got, and this was just a happy twist of fate. I got assigned a story from Milwaukee Magazine about a guy who's selling a tugboat. And I was like, okay, cool. This sounds interesting. He's got a tugboat that was built in 1903. He's quite elderly. He wants to pass it on. I looked this guy up, and I was like, you know who this guy is? He's a Milwaukee legend because painted on his roof in 6-foot white letters is the message, Welcome to Cleveland. And his roof is on the path of airplanes flying into Mitchell International here in Milwaukee. So I got to meet this guy and see his house, and it was just great. It was great. He has he lives in an old movie theater, first of all, and it's room after room of weird junk. It's like a miniature house on the rock almost.
What?
It's like suits of armor and parts of ships and like all sorts of random weird stuff.
That's awesome. Does he invite the public in to look at it or no?
No, I think he's pretty willing to let people in, except for the fact that now he is getting old, so he's not able to move around as well as he used to.
Sure.
So I think it's more rare. I think back in the day, people would be like, "Hey, I hear you got a crazy house," and you'd be like, "Sure, come on in. Why don't you look around?" You know, he's that type of guy. He's a very nice guy. So I talked to him, but I think there's still a lot to learn about this guy. So I'm going to be talking to him again in the future. But I always knew that rooftop was there, but I never like thought about who the person behind that must be. I was always like, this has got to be some crazy type of joker. And he is. He's like
some kind of card, some kind of guy.
He's a cosmic joker for sure. He wants to prank the whole world.
Oh, I love that. That's so much better than burning it.
Yeah.
Because when you burn it, it's just gone and there's nothing. If you prank it afterwards, you get to brag. So, okay. First of all, I'd like to point out that I have absolutely been taken in by the Welcome to Cleveland sign.
Yeah. Lots of people have.
That definitely happened to me once. And then once I realized what it was and what had happened, I was like, oh, you guy, you got me.
I asked him why he did it, and he said pure madness. It was a moment of madness.
Well, he's got to be in that old theater right here, and those airplanes go over all the time. It must have been one of those lightning struck moments like that one guy at Oomph had when he figured out that they should make human flesh burgers, where he was like, oh yes, I should definitely prank millions of people. Millions of people have seen that. Millions of people come out of MKE airport out of Mitchell. Wow, that's so great. Think what a rare opportunity. There are very few people that will ever get the chance to passively, because he only had to do it once. He only had to paint that roof once and then just sit back and watch the dollar bills roll in. And then he just sat back. How long has his roof been that way? 20 years?
Longer. 40.
Wow, really?
I think it was I think he said 1979. He was having lunch with his secretary on the roof, and they noticed a plane flying over, and she's like, oh, we can kind of see the people in there. That means they can see us. Why don't we paint Welcome to Milwaukee on the roof? He was like, I like the idea, except for one part.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
God bless him. You know what you need to do is we got to find a guy in Cleveland who's willing to paint his roof to say "Welcome to Milwaukee."
Yeah.
Really give the whole thing a nice circular feel. That's a good idea. Oh, I love him. What's his name? What is he called?
Mark Gubin.
Mark Gubin. That's a nice,
Yeah.
good Milwaukee name.
And he's had
Wonderful.
obviously he's had an interesting life. He used to be a photographer for Time and Life magazines,
Oh,
so
wow.
he traveled around the world doing photography, and he's collected interesting stuff his whole life. So very interesting guy all
That's
around.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Did he ever work for the CIA? Got some questions for him about their chicken sandwiches. Wow. Oh, that's wonderful.
You never know with that guy. Like if he said that, I would be not too surprised. I'd be like, all
I
right.
like the concentration of just characters in Milwaukee is
Yeah.
off the charts. It's just incomparable.
Yeah.
There's so many people who just don't understand that Milwaukee is the most whimsical place on earth. It's like Willy Wonka's fucking chocolate factory up in here every day of the week. Except with there's more beer though. There's more, and I maybe the same number of cannibals. I'm not really sure what all went on at Willy Wonka's factory. Those Oompa Loompas were up to no good. That's for damn sure. Okay, wow, that was the only story we did tonight that wasn't culinary in nature. We really had a whole theme going there for a second. I have one more story. It's kind of culinary. This also came from the Tease Weird Week group, which I love. If you've not been in the Weird Week group, you really should. We have tons of fun there. And there's at least once a week, there's just a gem. This one was posted by Alex Grow, and it is about how this company made whiskey out of crabs. Yeah, they did, and it's called Crab Trapper, which sounds like a euphemism for something much sturdier. But it's in New England, Concord, New Hampshire is where this happened. And what they did was they saw that there was this problem with green crabs. They're a super invasive species. They were brought over from Europe on the backs of boats 100 years ago. And now they're so invasive that they're actually ruining the marine life there, which is super not cool because, like in New England, a big part of their economy is like crabbing and shellfish and shit like that. So they actually pay a bounty, the state does, to people who bring in these green crabs. So apparently this particular distillery, which is called, one second, Tamworth Distilling, they've made weird things before. They made whiskey from the castor sacks of beavers, which is not really that unusual. The truth is, real vanilla is quite rare, quite expensive. Most of the vanilla that we eat is made from castorum, which is indeed procured from the anal sacs of beavers.
Nice.
So if you've had a vanilla ice cream recently, you were sucking on a beaver's booty hole. That's real. And also from the notoriously pungent fruit of durian. It's a South Asian fruit that apparently smells like rotten diapers. I don't know why we eat some of these things, you guys. But they were like, I know what we'll do is we'll take a bunch of crabs and we'll boil them. And then we will add alcohol to them. And then we will cook that down. And then we will age it for like 7 years. And they also add a bunch of spices. Mustard is in there. Coriander, bay leaf, cinnamon. Apparently, it does not taste of crabs at all. They have mastered the distilling and spicing of this to the point where it tastes most strongly of cinnamon and vanilla. But it's very popular. Lots of people love the Crab Trapper. I think mostly for the novelty of it, but also because apparently it's quite tasty. Apparently it's delicious. I would drink the Crab Trapper because I like whiskey and I like novelty and I dislike beaver buttholes. But also, I don't know that I can because I have a shellfish allergy. So I wonder. I mean, they were very explicit in the article that there are no chunks of crab nor crab shell in the actual thing, and that the only way that you can tell that there's crab in it at all is that it has the slightest hint of a sea breeze at the beach.
Well, there might be traces of the crab in there.
I would guess.
Maybe. Yeah.
I would think so. But things break down over time. I don't know. I have no idea. But that's what they're doing. It's called Crab Trapper. You can buy it on the internet if you really want to.
All right, I'm going to.
Do it.
There'll be next Cheese Weird Week Live is we'll find a word, and every time someone says it, I'll do a shot of
Pull shots of Crab Trapper. I love that. I super love that. Hey, didn't you just do a story about like an old seaman?
Yes. So in Wisconsin, there's a peninsula called Door County, and at the end of the peninsula is Washington Island, which used to be a fishing community, but over the years, of course, one by one, they've passed away until now there's only one left. His name is Ken Koyen. He has an awesome restaurant that he owns called KK Fiske, and he serves fish that he catches. He's the last commercial fisherman of Washington Island. And him and his son runs this restaurant together. It's great, super fun place. I would love to return someday, hopefully soon.
Well, we should go bring him a bottle of the old Crab Trapper.
I bet he'd be down for that. Seems like he's a very nice, total salt of the earth, self-made type of guy. You know, he enjoys the freedom of being a fisherman because he can, he's his own boss and
sets his own hours.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that for him. It's got to be annoying for a guy like that, though, because isn't Washington Island kind of a tourist trap now? Isn't it?
It is very much summer through early fall. It's pretty much like June through like mid-September. It's super busy, and they're very busy. So I think they like that because they make a shit ton of money at their restaurant. Sure. And they're like, it's kind of, you have this period where you're super busy for a few months and then you chill out for
the rest of the year.
Yeah. Right. So this is the way of life there.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
We'll scoot on up there and get him some of the old Crab Trapper. And
I would love to go back there because I did not have time because I was focusing on his life for this article. But I bet that dude's got some ghost stories about the island. So
there's gotta be.
I would love to ask him about that because I'm sure he's got a ghost story or two.
I think that we should definitely have Ghost Story Happy Hour with the last fisherman of Washington Island.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what a great idea. We'll get a couple of bottles of Edmund Fitzgerald and some of the old Crab Trapper, and we'll just cruise on up there and have this guy tell us, because does he talk like an old seaman? Does he have that kind of like swarthy?
Yeah, like not to like a cartoonish level, but he's a very just kind of he's a good storyteller, and he's just got a real natural, like, here's what it is, I'll tell you the story and that's it.
I love it already. Okay, well, we're obviously doing this. It's totally happening. We'll go after the season's over when he's chillaxing. I hear the storms up on Washington Island get real nasty too. Should go up there over winter, maybe just hole up in the old the old crab shack with him.
Yeah, they call the passage between the peninsula and the island Death's Door.
Oh Jesus!
Because back in the day, lots and lots of shipwrecks because of the weird currents and reefs around the island and the peninsula.
Oh, sure.
Nowadays, it's much more safer because of modern technology. But back when, back in the day, it was kind of a dangerous passage to make sometimes.
Sure.
Mm.
Well, I love that. I like how this whole episode had a nice circular feel to it. I feel like
and that's why I feel there must be ghost stories there, because there's been so many shipwrecks. And stuff.
Absolutely. Plus, it's isolated. It's a very isolated place. There wasn't a lot of other people around. I'm sure that, like, especially way back in the day, mostly people who live on islands, especially in real isolated rural communities, when they had their troubles, it's not like they were calling in the police. They weren't calling the state cops to come and manage that. They didn't want those people up in their business. Whatever was going on, they were going to take care of it themselves. And I'm sure there's many, many stories about exactly what that looks like, or rumors anyway.
Yeah.
Unverifiable mythology of Washington Island for show.
Great stuff. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all we got for this week, but we'll see everyone next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everybody.